Welcome back, 99.3 Nigeria Info, and you're back to the Big Hat Facts. And the Big Hat Facts today is focused on the road to 2023. And the road to 2023 this evening, we have joining us the vice presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Ahmed Buhari, who is a professional with a huge experience as a government liaison consultant in the oil and gas sector. His role in the petroleum sector required him to interface with politicians, government, and private sector on processes, most of which involve corporate social responsibilities involving educational projects, provision of health facilities in the rural Niger Delta areas, ensuring proper communication between private sector organizations, donor agencies, and the general public. His excellent networking skills have provided vital client leads that improve client relationships, resulting in an impressive increase in business renewals in the telecoms industry. I'm sure this will provide us with plenty of discussions when we get into all that he's done. Quite a rich resume that Ahmed Buhari has. Social commentators, appeared on radio and TV and print for several years. The vice presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress. Also, I remember very well a former presidential candidate and currently an African Union ambassador and Agenda 2063 envoy, married with children. Great to have you join us, Ahmed Buhari. I cannot connect with you yet. If you unmute your device, Ahmed Buhari, then we will hear you clearly.
Hello, good evening, Senior Aghogho. It's good to be here. I don't know if you told the general public that you were my senior at some point in my life.
All right. Thank you very much. Absolutely, senior. But we're going to need to do something. I see there are a number of people logged on. We'll have to log them out. I don't know how they... So so that we can have just you and I, because we're getting some disruptions from the other users. Give us a second for house cleaning, and then we'll come back to you, Ahmed Buhari. Welcome back. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Our road to 2023 has us with Ahmed Buhari, the vice presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress. And it's a pleasure to have him join us here. And like he said, a commando. Let's see if he will be able to do exactly what he says we do. So very quickly, first and foremost, let's deal with this. We are just days to the start of the campaign, and just to clear the air, your party, the ADC, has been in the news for a number of reasons. Many of them not too good because of the crisis, but the way politicians say whether it's crisis is a different matter entirely. So help us understand what is happening with your party, the presidential candidate, Dumebi Kachuku, you, the vice presidential candidate, Ahmed Buhari. Will you be running for the elections on the platform of the ADC, or based on the stories we're hearing by the party that Dumebi Kachuku has been expelled from the party and is no longer a member of ADC? Help us understand what exactly is going on. Kindly unmute your device, Ahmed Buhari.
Thank you for the opportunity. In all honesty, political parties are bound to have this kind of situations. In most cases, I term them as contests for superiority. But most importantly, with regards to the situation in the African Democratic Congress, I think His Excellency Dumebi Kachuku, the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, is deciding to do things differently. And the system that we are all itching to change is fighting back, and fighting back very hard. Clearly, the former national chairman of the African Democratic Congress has been there for about 17 years. And obviously, he doesn't want the constitution to take its course. What is expected of somebody in the party or the National Working Committee of the party is to have elective convention after every 4 years. This is the 4th year, and he has been asked to sit down for a convention where new officers should be elected. He shied away from it, and he decided to give himself an extra 1 year. Now, Dumebi Kachuku, the presidential candidate of the party, is saying that is unacceptable. I think what the right thing for us to do is to have an elective convention where everybody will be subjected to the exercise. For the former national chairman and his cohorts, for them, it's a question of how they can extend all of this to another election year and do what they're used to doing. We're not going to let that happen. But one thing I have to say to Nigerians is that anytime you're trying to change illegality would fight back. And that is exactly what we're going through right now. But I assure you, in the next few days, all of it will be resolved. With the question of whether we're still contesting on the platform of the African Democratic Congress, nothing can change that. According to the constitution of INEC, all the presidential candidates and the vice presidential candidates are on the ballot, except they decide to withdraw or as a result of death. Other than that, we're contesting in the 2023 general election, and we will ensure that the constitution of our party runs supreme.
All right. In case you just joined us, 99.3 Nigeria Info on the road to 2023. We have Ahmed Buhari, the vice presidential candidate of the ADC. And you can watch this live. It's being streamed on Facebook as well as on YouTube. So if we say, given that there is what you say, not a crisis within the party, are you saying that when the campaign kick off, everyone in your party will be on the same page going forward with the manifesto
everyone
of the party?
Everyone on the party is on the same page, except for those whose tenure have elapsed. Their tenure elapsed on the 21st of August, and they're trying to push whatever they can push to remain in the system. And we're saying that if your tenure expired on the 21st of August, what we should be talking about right now is arrangements to put together a national elective convention where new officers will be appointed into office to steer the affairs of the party. Their failure to recognize that clearly means that they do not understand the constitution. And so for everybody that is contesting in the party, talking about the nearly 340 candidates from the president down to the assembly members, are all bona fide contestants, and they are not shaking. As we speak, we are actually reading out our campaign programs, and a lot of states have already started doing a lot of things across the country. Our billboards are standing in the different states of the country. It means that we're in for serious business.
And when you're done with the ajibaji, like they say, outside the country. You're going to have to deal with the real issues affecting us as a nation. And Nigerians, of course, would want to know your thoughts and your thought processes on very vexing issues. Like, as we speak, we've had students in public tertiary institutions shut down for over 7 months. And many of them hit the streets in Lagos today, blocking off the airport, access to the airport, even though we hear it's being cleared now. But it's something that they say they will continue to do, and could be where you are in the seat of power, the FCT, the National Assembly, to pay visits also to let them understand how worrisome this problem is to them. What are your thoughts with the closure of universities in the country?
So it might interest our listeners to know that, and viewers to know that in the last few months, we've had a couple of meetings with ASU, trying to understand what the real situations are and how to help them mitigate some of the problems.
Right.
Without a question of doubt, we're on the side of ASU. There is no question in my mind that one of the basic concerns for every government should be our educational system. And ASU is not asking for too much. However, the government has not sat down with ASU in a way that the yearnings of ASU can be met adequately. ASU is asking for about 220 billion naira to help them resolve some of the backlog of things that previous administration, including this one, has promised them. And what we are saying clearly is that if ASU is asking for 220 billion, and on the other side of things, the aviation sector was trying to ground its activities because there was a backlog of payments that we're also expecting from the federal government and from the system to help them continue their activities.
Right.
And within the shortest time,
right,
the federal government was able to give a bailout of 110 billion naira, half of what ASU is asking for in a few days. It goes to tell us very well that the only thing that concerned the administration and the people in office are the facilities that they still have to use in Nigeria. As we speak right now, they left the Kaduna Abuja road because they were worried about bandits attacking them and believed that the train system was the safest route for them to use. And then before you knew it, the bandits derailed the train. Now they're all scared of that and they've moved back to the airlines. So the airlines have got to work because they're the ones that use the airlines. And that is why once it's a priority for governments, they make sure that they actually resolve the problems that affect that sector. And the aviation sector is one of those priorities to them because that's what they use to fly around. So it's important for us to understand what we intend to do as a government when we get into office. The presidential candidate of my party, Dumebi Kachiku, and myself have decided that there is no way anything is going to work properly in Nigeria if the main gatekeepers are not first users of these facilities. For example, I will tell you, you cannot imagine the Minister of Infrastructure, say Minister of Roads, Minister of Transport, not using those things that he has put in place. For example, you say you have built roads linking, Jos to Abakaliki and so forth, and then you're not seen to be using those roads. Or you are the Minister of Education and all your children are schooling abroad. Or you are the Minister of Health and you are planning how to package yourself to go to India, Canada, Germany, or somewhere in Egypt for medical tourism.
Right.
It's not going to work for us like this. That is why we have decided that one of the only ways we can salvage all of those problems affecting our country is if we adopt the Patriots Act. What is the Patriots Act? The Patriots Act is a bill that Dumebi and I will see the House pass when we get into office. It has already been prepared, it has already been designed, and all we're looking for is National Assembly assenting to it so that it can be passed into law. Right. What does it do? It means that the bill clearly says that every federal government officer or anybody working for government or a beneficiary of government, which means you're a contractor, you're a dependent of government, you will be compelled to use made in Nigeria. You will be compelled to use the services in Nigeria. You will be compelled to use the roads, to use the hospitals. Your children have got to be in our schools. Because I give you an example. The only reason why the strike is still lingering is because these men come back home from work and they don't see their kids around because their kids are at Oxford or Cambridge or somewhere in the United States studying. So it doesn't really bother them. But think about it. You've been coming home for about 8 months and your child has become a houseboy or a house girl doing all sorts of things. You'll be concerned about why they're still at home. You make sure they get back to school. But this is not happening because it isn't a priority for them. The same thing with the health sector. So by the time you now put a bill that says, oh, are you saying you have to fly because you have a special medical case? Or then you cannot be part of government. Then you should resign from that appointment. Then you should not worry to contest for any elective office, because once you do, you have to now use what is in place.
All right, Ahmed Buhari, it's great you're bringing up all of these points because, interestingly, it's the way the people view the things oftentimes as the electorate versus those who are in office. And if you move from this part of where activism is to say this doesn't work, to the other side where oftentimes the people who are going to be elected, the arrows pointed at the side of the divide you belong to, even though you belong to the ADC, the political class is viewed in this sort of light. And I guess this is why people like you and the others will have to come and say this is how we hope to remedy the problem. If you have messages to send on WhatsApp, 0809-597-5805. Again, 0809-597-5805. A rich oil country, the baby Kachuku, Nigeria is, and great you have a background also in the oil and gas sector. One of the debates, one of the discussions that will not elude anyone with the next administration is the question around oil subsidy and what exactly is going on with the oil and gas sector. We've seen several numbers bandied around about how much oil is being stolen from the country. We've had words and terms being used to describe it as simply impossible to happen. And we've had things like we kick it down the road and whenever we get there, we'll deal with it. And the bridge appears every time we get to, we keep pushing it and we do not know whether the bridge is broken yet or we're still heading towards it. Help us understand first and foremost with the question, I don't know which is easier to deal with. Is it the subsidy question or is it the... Let's start with the subsidy question. A lot of Nigerians relate with that. What do you think? People call it fake. Others say you must continue from there.
Yes, you see, there's a big question of subsidy. But you see, there is no question in my mind that we cannot sustain this subsidy regime, which is why I do support the removal of subsidy. However, we're dealing with a very, very tough time where Nigerians are saying everything is biting hard. How come you're going to remove subsidy? But I'm going to say one thing very clearly. Rather than focus on oil subsidy, how about we look at food subsidy? How many Nigerians really use oil and gas? How many Nigerians actually use petroleum? And how many Nigerians have to eat food? And how much are the food costing us today? We know that we're actually dealing with an insecurity problem, which has made food really, really expensive because many places where we have farms are currently being controlled by bandits, are currently being controlled by terrorists. Places have been taken over. So there's no question in my mind that as I speak with you right now, one of the burning issues for every Nigerian is what do I put in my mouth to fill my belly? There's a lot of hunger in the land, and which is why for us, the subsidy must be looked at from the perspective of how much subsidy are we pushing to ensure that we have sufficient food for our people. For us, that is what's most paramount. And you know, the whole question of subsidy, the biggest concern for me is the effect it has on our on the naira. Because anytime you are paying for subsidy, you are paying for it in dollars. Anytime you're importing oil, you're paying for it in dollars. The more demand the country makes for dollar, the more it affects the value of the naira, which is why I believe that we can pay subsidy, but how about we pay subsidy for food? This is going to be done in naira. This is going to reduce the pressure on our demand for dollar, which means there's no question in my mind that in the shortest possible time, there will be some appreciation for the naira. And that is how you are building back the economy. For us, we believe that Nigeria still stands as one of the countries that pays the lowest for petrol. I know a lot of people would argue that no, we want this petrol not to be increased. But I'll tell you something, the more you allow this subsidy regime to continue, the more these people that we're trying to stop ensuring that these leakages happen. Because what you talked about from the beginning, we talked with regards to a lot of oil not being accounted for, it's all part of the leakages we're talking about. So many leakages across the strata of this oil regime, which is why we're saying none of the figures that have been presented are even real. The Minister of Finance comes today with her own figures. The Minister of Petroleum comes with different figures. And it is all in a bid to continue to steal our common resources, our common wealth. And all of this is being done with exchange for naira and dollar, which is actually putting pressure on the naira. So yes, subsidy has got to go. Yes, we should move our subsidy to things like the food that we eat, infrastructure that we would have to give to our people, housing, healthcare, and things like that. That is what I think our subsidy should go for. And most importantly, I think it's important for Nigerians to understand that for all of these things to happen, whether you want to secure our pipelines, whether you want to pass a bill and it goes through the House and it gets assentment of the president, and then you are trying to get implementation and you are struggling with implementation, all of this is happening because there is a huge problem with what I call our gatekeepers. Who are our gatekeepers? Our gatekeepers are the civil servants, the public servants, the military, the paramilitary. These guys have got to be taken care of. And what do I mean by taken care of? Every now and then you see the civil servants on the street asking for a 30% increment in their salaries. Yes, at the end of the day, this 30% is being granted. But what does this 30%?
Right. Ahmed Buhari, I'm going to kindly interrupt you so that when we come back from this break, we'll have a look at the civil service and understand what exactly it means to cut the cost of government or keep the size as it is. I know there are different shades to this argument. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We'll go on a quick break. We come back. We'll continue the discussion with the vice presidential candidate of the ADC.
This is an infomercial.
Lagos, how far now? I came here with this very important news as well as me. I'm even hyped. In fact, I'm just so happy to tell you this. Now, if you wish for some premium enjoyment with a sprinkle of free goodies, in fact, I wanted to start by asking you that. Do dreams come true? Because, hey, your dream has come to pass. So, is there something you desire? Or you just wish someone could sponsor? Are you looking for sponsors? Because if this is you, don't miss out on this chance of getting exactly what you desire, because Go Money is about to grant your wishes, okay? This September, allow yourself to be pampered because you have worked hard and you deserve it. Make a wish now to get a shopping voucher, free lunch, spa appointment, weekend getaway, and many more from Go Money. Get ready to have your mind blown. All you have to do is follow Go Money NG on Instagram, Twitter, and go at Go Money Global on Facebook. Click the link in their bio to make a wish and be part of the people that will be getting exactly what they deserve, okay? Hurry now because terms and conditions apply.
That was an infomercial.
Get the higher thermal Genpal inverter air conditioner. It's a whopping 70% electricity saver. That's less bills, more comfort. Higher thermal, always there for you.
Health, they say, is wealth. But when securing good health costs you an arm and a leg, naturally, you hear people scream. Yepa! Or when you are at the hospital and they insist on a hefty deposit before treatment. Yepa! Or after receiving the full hospital bill and you realize that it may cost you not just an arm and a leg, but also your birthright.
Yepa! But when Avon HMO has your back, you won't have to scream, Yepa! Because in the end, we all need people. Visit avonhealthcare.com now to get an Avon Health plan for you and your people.
Avon HMO, empowering you to live a healthier, fuller life.
24 months warranty. You get 24 months warranty when you buy the iPhone 13 Pro Max, 13 Pro, 13, or 13 Mini from verified Apple authorized reseller stores in Nigeria. You also get a one-time 6-month accidental screen or liquid damage cover for your iPhone. Offer available at iConnect and Spar stores in Nigeria. Visit iNigeria.org for more info. Terms and conditions apply.
My guy, waiting the path now. Almost don't see the result. Kind of small thing, no, but trust you, Nana. One parallel. How you doing now? Fine, I be fine. No, so small house party go in place tomorrow. Jubo Kese go expect you for you tomorrow.
What time?
6 p.m. sharp.
Why you dey rush talk now?
See, my credit goes finish. My credit goes finish.
For this new economy, now your credit dey finish.
I beg tell me another thing.
Gas speedometer. No need to rush your call. Buy Glow SIM. When you subscribe to Glow, 11 copper per second. Now to the make calls for as low as 11 copper per second to all networks. It is available to new and existing subscribers. Terms and conditions they shall.
Glow Unlimited.
Bama, give everybody one bottle for my head.
Twale for Waxy money.
Waxy money. Yes, so now Waxy bet the runner. Now make everybody they call me Waxy money. Since when I entered the website www.waxybet.com. Now so I register, place my bet. Now they send me 250% welcome bonus. You self log on to www.waxybet.com. Now be WAXIBET.com and start to collect your money. Remember, say betting now for 18 years and above.
99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one station for talk. Let's talk.
Welcome back, 99.3 Nigeria Info. How time flies when you have a big discussion. And Ahmed Buhari, a vice presidential candidate of the ADC, is with us this evening. And we've talked about the politics in his party. He says no cause for alarm. We're looking at the oil and gas sector, and we're also looking at governance. We're streaming this live on Facebook as well as YouTube at Nigeria Info FM. And we have a WhatsApp line open also too for your messages, which I see a number of you have sent messages and indeed questions for you. So I guess Ahmed Buhari will give you the questions, and then you respond to the ones you can respond. And hopefully we can open the phone lines at some point in time too, because it appears people interested in the discussion this evening. Adenusi Patrick is asking the question: should we retain petroleum subsidy and not invest in having functional refineries? Interesting. Subsidy on petroleum must go. Subsidy for health and food is what we should be talking about. Kunle Major from First Actor. And interestingly, he says he was an old classmate of yours in command. And then we have... all right. Someone wants to shout a birthday shout out to her husband. Your husband loves you, don't worry. He knows you're listening. Okay, so that's the petroleum subsidy question is what I see here. And okay, that one. So I think you can handle that one on petroleum subsidy in terms of making choices. Refineries or petroleum subsidy?
Yes, before we went for the break, we did talk about petroleum subsidy, and I say subsidy on oil has to go. Right. Subsidy on petroleum has got to go. Can we move those subsidy to food, to healthcare, and education? I mean, like, we're paying huge amounts of money on petroleum that we still cannot, ascertain how much data for what exactly we consume or what exactly comes into the country or whatever exactly we're subsidizing, which is why I'm thinking, in all honesty, that petroleum subsidy has got to go. We move it to food, we move it to agricultural produce, locally manufactured agricultural produce, we move it to healthcare, local healthcare within the country, we move it to education, see how we can have affordable education for our children, for our people, for many people, I think the most biggest concern for many people is how do we manage all of this, and transportation is such a big deal. But I am assuring you that at the end of the day, if we reduce the pressure on our demand for dollar, it will translate to an astronomical improvement in the value of our naira. Let us see how we would pay for less things with dollar, because every time we talk about petroleum, we're actually talking about dollar side by side. And what this does to us in the long run is it affects our ability to ensuring that we're able to, improve the value of the naira, which has actually affected our economy on all grounds.
Interestingly, your namesake, who is the incumbent president right now, I don't know whether it does open any doors for you, or people look scornfully at you when you say Ahmed Buhari is your name. But just kidding. Would you say, in terms of the cost of governance and running this country, you touched a little bit on the humongous cost, whether it's with the National Assembly, a lot of people have a problem with, and how much money is spent in National Assembly, or with the civil service, where the government now says, okay, we're going to look again at the former head of civil service report, Steve Orosanye, in how we can cut down the size of government. But others look at it as a sacred cow, that they could talk about it but not go near it, because it's something that over the years people have taken it to be the national cake. What part of the country you belong to guarantees you a job in any of the so-called juicy ministries or parastatals or agencies. What about that?
You know, if you let me take the next 1-2 minutes to address the situation, I need people to understand that this is a constitutional matter, and that the president alone cannot reduce his own salary. In fact, it has to go through the National Assembly. And as I speak with you, the National Assembly members will work really hard to ensure that nothing touches their salary. The best the president can do is to say, I've received XYZ amount of money and I'm going to throw it into a particular sector, which in reality will not really do much, but just to show a good gesture to the people that indeed I feel your pain and I'm not going to take this humongous amount of money that the Constitution has allotted me. Be that as it may, I think what is very important for all of us to understand with regards to the arms of government is that as much as they're supposed to work together, they are supposed to also checkmate each other, which is why we want a system where everybody who's supporting the presidency must understand that, look, he cannot do everything on his own. We need the Nigerian people to also support the situation. But before the truncation, I was speaking about the civil service, and I think we cannot shy away from the discussion around the civil service, because there are some very good politicians that are coming with very good intentions. They want to change things. They want to see things happen differently. And when they get into office, they put some other good guys as ministers, as head of parastatals, as DGs, and then they keep struggling to see that implementation on the policies that they have, formulated, see the light of day. Let me tell you the honest truth. I take this back to 1976. In 1976, there was a huge retrenchment of a lot of civil servants on the grounds of, we've just come out of the war, we're trying to reassemble ourselves. There's so many corrupt people within the civil service. And so there was mass retrenchment. Some people who had given 25 years in service, some 10, some 15, some who were eligible for pension and gratuity. All of those people were abruptly removed from the system. What this did was a total breakdown in the belief system of civil servants. So the people who came after those people came in with the belief that, look, let me just take my own now, because I'm not sure if this system would even allow me get my pension or my gratuity. And as you can see right now, there are a lot of people who are retired who are still queuing up to get what is duly theirs, their pension, their gratuity. They're going through so much pain, which is why these so-called gatekeepers, the civil servants, the public servants, the military, all of them who have access as gatekeepers are doing everything they can do to get what they can get today, because they feel the system cannot guarantee them tomorrow. We have to change all of that. We would have to look into the civil service structure, and renew their hope, renew their belief in the system, and move it from a salary system to a welfare system. What do I mean, a welfare system? When you look at the life of every civil servant, there are about 4 things that really concern them. The first thing that really concerns a civil servant is my housing. So the day you start the civil service, your housing is assured. For the next 35 years, or till you get to 60, whichever comes first, we are pinching something out of your salary to ensure that your house is secured when you get into the civil service. The second thing that we should also, hold on to very clearly, dearly, is their healthcare. As I speak with you right now, if you walk into any of the ministries, there's no how you will not see a poster somewhere that says Mr. Obina Ibrahim has been diagnosed with stage 3 of this disease. And so we're trying to raise 500,000 naira for his healthcare. This is heartbreaking. These are the people that are supposed to sign all of those contracts and ensure that the contractor does not increase anything, and that the contractor is moving by the rules and the regulations of the civil service. But as I speak with you right now, they are the ones who advise the contractors. What did you do? Oh no, mark it up by 200 million, mark it up by 1.5 billion naira. The reason is because they just want to take their own today because they are not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. The third thing is their school fees for their children. What stops every person who is a gatekeeper? No civil servant child should be removed from school because of lack of school fees. I know some people who are working, are serving in Sambisa Forest today. They get to speak to their wives after every 2 months. Hello, darling, how are you? And the wife is telling them that their son is at home because he has been chased out of school for lack of school fees. These are people that are protecting the sovereignty of our country. When a man hears this, the next time you are telling him to go and supply one thing or the other, the first thing on his mind is, how do I remove what I can remove now and be sure that I secure myself? The third thing is money in their hands, which is why for every person who is a civil servant, as long as you have a civil service ID card with an ID number, for every store you walk into, you are supposed to be able to put your receipts together at the end of the year, walk into the tax company and get your tax rebate, get your tax returns. These are the things that will make a civil servant feel that, yes, now I need to protect every naira and kobo that passes through my desk because this country has got to work. The more I allow these leakages happen, the more my inability to get this welfare that the system wants to give me will get to me. These are the things that I want to start thinking of, because no matter who you are as a civil servant, as a president now, or as a politician, be sure to meet these guys who will work so hard to ensure that you fail.
Right. We're going to open the phone lines very soon, but just before we do that, Ahmed Buhari, and interesting that the campaigns haven't yet begun. So what we're just doing is to have an overview. When the campaigns begin, you, together with the other candidates, will, of course, have your plans, and then we can interrogate just whether these plans work or not, or exactly how they are going to happen. But, you know, interestingly, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I had a discussion with Reverend Chris Okotie, who's also been a presidential candidate in previous elections, just like you for 2019. And he said, look, the two parties, the APC and the PDP, this what you could consider the old guard, because of the spread they have all across the country, are profiting from a system which has been fixed to work for them. Because they have this spread, they are the ones more likely to win elections. And he said, I am not going to participate further in any elections. And he's pursuing whatever you call an ambitious interim government, or whatever he thinks, rather than an election to take place. What are your thoughts when people look at your party, the ADC, and ask you the question, how are you going to overcome this hurdle of not being nationally spread and having your candidates all across the different levels of government?
Yes, you see politicians that subconsciously reside in our heads. You know, when you look at all the politicians on the bar, been in office for as long as God knows how long, you would see people who from 1992 have been contesting. There are people who subconsciously, you will see political programs put them as the backdrop pictures of. You know, it's not, I do not blame anybody. These guys have been here for so long that we sort of idolize them around political matters. But you see, indeed, Rome was not built in a day. But what is most important for us to also realize is that the African Democratic Congress turns 20 years next year, which means it's not a new party, which means we've got the spread that we keep talking about, which means as I speak with you right now, we have state governors for every state. We have House of Representative contestants. In fact, we have about 4 different House of Representatives who are currently serving in the National Assembly. So we have in the last few years actually won elective offices, even though in some cases you see some of them out of pressure from the fact that they're the only ones standing in the entire house, say, okay, fine, I want to join one of the big two and, you know, feel among. But the point still remains that we've been tested, we've gone to the polls, and we've won elections. So yes, it's a step by step. Nobody should completely decide that nothing can happen differently. At the end of the day, I keep saying that all of this is dependent on the Nigerian people and what they truly want for themselves. But what is most essential for me is I want the Nigerian people to interrogate politicians, ask these very deep questions. Do not just say, oh, I've had a sensational statement from a certain candidate, and yes, I'm going to run to the market with that. Why don't you stop for a second and ask him how looked at this situation? Myself and my presidential candidate have looked at it critically. We have no question in our mind that all of the good plans that we have, implementation will always be our biggest challenge. And how do you ensure that implementation happens? The civil service structure that's one area that when a very good minister, when a very good guy becomes a minister and you are expecting him to transform that ministry, right. The people in the service are laughing at him when he comes with all his, I'm going to do this. They're laughing because they've been there. Right. They're going to be there during his time. They're going to be there when he leaves. And so they know how to manage him in such a way that he does not succeed.
All right. Now, talk about emotional intelligence. I see an application year again as we head towards the campaign and the general elections. Talking about what the people want to say. The people have been listening, I guess, also they want to join in the conversation. The number to call, 0700 993 993 993. Again, 0700 993 993 993. If you've got a question, if you've got a comment or contribution, we'd love to hear from you. Everyone is guaranteed at least a minute. You can also send us messages on WhatsApp. The WhatsApp number is 0809 597 5805. Let's see who is first to the block here. Hello and good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Great to have you join us.
Yeah, good evening. I'm the first caller on the program.
Thank you very much. Well, for this segment, you're late for the program. Yes. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I am Obina from Akute.
All right, Obina, very quickly. Go ahead.
Yes. Your guest on the program, I think he's speaking the minds of the youth. This is exactly the change we want. When you have made mention of having everybody captured, when you have a transaction, your card system should be a way of getting the transaction you did, and your hospital should be in the card, not when you come to a hospital, things have been manipulated, delay you, all manner of things. These are some of the things that make the Nigerian people to be agitating for a change. I appreciate your guest for his presentation.
All right.
Thank God we get a good Nigerian in the next election.
All right. Thank you very much, Obina. Hello and good evening.
Yeah, Aghogho, how are you doing now?
I'm brilliant. Great to have you join us. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm on transit right now. I'd like to know your guest. Who is he? Who is he, please?
Oh, it's Ahmed Buhari. He's the vice presidential candidate for the ADC.
Just like the last caller said, I like his line of thought. I like where he said the military guy should be fighting and it should be. I like that line of thought. Great. And I think ideas like that will make this Nigeria go around very well. If an average military man will know, be sure, you guarantee that the school fee of his student, even as he's working for government, is guaranteed. An average government worker, I think it makes sense. I think there are policies that will make people feel at home.
All right, Jonathan. Thank you very much for your comments. Hello and good evening.
Hello, good evening. My name is Joe.
Joe, where are you calling from, Joe?
I'm calling from Victoria Island.
All right, go ahead, please.
Okay, so this guy, his name is Buhari. I just so love his perspective. The only thing that I have to say is this. You know, we have a lot of these technocrat guys who want to run for president and one thing or the other. Can't you guys, for the sake of the country, come together, even if you are in different parties, and allocate yourselves with different positions? I mean, have initiated the election so that when somebody wins, and what I want to say is something like, have somebody like Peter Obi and the rest of you come together to dethrone the current government, dethrone the current party and the other elephants in Nigeria, so that we can move forward as a country. People like Kingsley Moghalu, you that you are talking, your presidential candidate, this is what we need. We need you guys to come together to shut down on all these two other demonic parties that are troubling Nigeria. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe, for your comment. But about demonic, I'm not too sure. But I will take one more call, and you respond to that point, because I think it's a very important point about this coalition of the other parties, if it will happen or if it's too late. But let's take this call. Hello and good evening.
Good evening. Aha,
great to have you join us. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Yes, my name is Onyeka. I'm on transit now in a serious traffic because of today.
I hope we are making it less stressful for you.
It's stressful, but I'm willing to go through it. Nigeria will be saved, it will be changed, I will be great again. With the tone of that man that is in the studio with you, there is hope for this country. And I'm only saying that they should not give the answer, even if they don't clinch victory at this point, right? It is not up. They should continue to galvanize, because you cannot be a changer and you just come once and you get away. That's what I don't like with some of them in the past. You have to sustain this enlightenment, continue teaching people, continue enlightening people, because right now so many of us are brainwashed, hunger, frustration, so we can't reason very well. It's only few persons that understand what is going on. So, but when you sustain the argument and continue to tell people what is expected of them, I think it will go a whole long. I appreciate him and his team.
All right.
Him, it will not be easy for them to give them space to come, because they have what it takes. But the ones that are on ground, the oligarchy will not allow them to come, but they should not give up.
All right, thank you very much, Onyeka. And so many calls coming in, but we're pressed for time. I think if you want, you have to respond, at least for courtesy, Ahmed Buhari, so that when that man said your name is Buhari,
that's what I'm here for. I'm here to respond.
Go ahead,
and I think one of the real issues here is, I think I've spoken about what we really want to do with the civil service, but it's also very important for us to understand that as much as we are concerned about the welfare of everybody that is going to be a gatekeeper, and indeed every other citizen, it's important for us to also understand that some of them will still want to be fraudulent. You know, it's in the human nature for people to want to do those things. I'm assuring you that once this bill is passed, other civil servants would expose their colleagues and tell them to do the right thing, because they know that further allowance of that leakage to continue would affect their ability to get the welfare that they want to get. But how will all of this work? People keep asking, are you sure your anti-corruption crusade is going to be able to fix the country? Oh, yes. Which is why we cannot talk about all of these things without talking about proper data management systems. These proper data management systems are the things that will give us accountability, transparency, efficiency, and good governance. And I like how one of the callers spoke about the fact that we need to have a centralized data system that can give us access to all of these facilities that government has provided. No question in my mind, if you insist that the people in government, whether on this executive arm of government, the legislative arm of government, beneficiaries of government, contractors, what have you, vendors, if you have any access to government activities, you have to use Made in Nigeria. In fact, you have to travel to Nigeria tourist site if you have to travel to go and have a holiday.
Very
Some
quickly,
people will say, oh, you cannot restrict people from having all of those things. Then don't be in government. Then you don't have to be in the service.
Very
because
quickly,
at the end of the day,
Sorry, but very quickly, Ahmed Buhari, your response to a coalition of the other parties that are not in the center right now. What's your
I remember when I contested in 2019, we had this whole idea of putting a coalition together, presidential aspirants coming together. We went through that vigorous process of ensuring that somebody emerged. At the end of the day, it all fell apart. It looks as if everybody wanted to become a president. As I speak right now, I have a presidential candidate. Every day we talk about the possibilities of seeing that Nigerians understand and hear us, because I think one of the biggest concerns is we haven't been heard as much as we should. I have listened to a lot of presidential candidates and I have truly, honestly, not heard them speak about the solutions. Yes, on sensational statements and comments, oh yes, they make those kind of comments. But how are you going to execute this? That is where there is a gap. And I want to also say that for all of those older politicians, yes, I believe that they've given their best. We are here to give our all, and the failure to pass the baton from one generation to the next generation has created a vacuum. That vacuum that it has created is what is causing all of the mess that is going on in Nigeria. Their urgency to ensure that the next generation start taking care of the matters that are pressing their time, their generation is so paramount. Otherwise, we are going to fall apart. We are building a generation that is not even able to boast of its ability to take care of itself, because we are being compelled to believe that only certain people within an age bracket can control the narrative. I think that has got to change. That has got to stop. I want to sincerely thank Nigerian Info for finding us worthy for this conversation, and we'll be very available for further conversations should you call us.
All right. Thank you very much, because I know that we'll be bombarded for more information. But thank you very much. Ahmed Buhari, the vice presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress. We hope to touch bases with you once the campaigns are up and running, so we can compare and contrast notes with many of the things you say, especially around policies. Like you say, it's your responsibility to be there to be interrogated and quizzed on whether the policies are possible to work or not. But thank you very much, Ahmed Buhari. All right, we'll leave it at that. We're going to go on a quick break. We come back, time for the news, and after the news, we have Newsroom. Stay with us on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Get 70% off.
Say what? 70%?
Everyone loves massive discount because it either helps them save money or get more from their budget. But sadly, every day isn't Christmas. Aww. Unless like me, you've got to have the higher